Hey guys, okay, so this is going to be the Q&A video. I'm just going to be answering all of the questions that you guys did ask on Twitter and Facebook. So I'll dive right in. I'll start over at Twitter. Fingers crossed you guys can see the question actively as well. So this one comes from Twitter Chief VRK. I assume VRK is his guild. Shout out to those guys. So how will you address the VIS price, and what other burning mechanisms will you use if people decide to cash out profits instead of breeding new Pegas? This is always going to be the top question, so we might as well just get it out of the way at the start. There is about 4 different routes that we do want to take. One is the burning Pega to create a stadium. That means we won't be doing a traditional stadium or land sale. What will happen is that, for example, anyone can own a stadium. What you need to do is burn, for example, 500 Pega. Let's say you burn 500 Pega. Then you will get a stadium. The benefits of that stadium, in theory, will outweigh the 500 Pega that you have burnt. Also, you're probably going to calculate how much 500 Pega is worth, and then put that value to the stadium. Now, in the future, of course, the population is going to be much higher, so we're going to assume that the prices will drop, depending on supply and demand ratio. However, yes, that's probably the route that we will take. And that's a very, very good burning mechanism. Why? The same route that you guys have seen in Axie Infinity. What happens is that burning the VIS one time is fine and not a bad route. However, the products or the items that are producing the VIS continue to do so forever, as long as they're alive, because they don't have a lifespan. So what we need to do is essentially burn the VIS producing asset, which in this case is Pega. We need to kill them, but there also needs to be a really good incentive for you guys to kill them. So this is the route that likely we will take, which is one burning mechanism, and that is, as you could understand, let's say you burn 500 Pega, they're averaging 300 VIS a day. I believe it comes to about 2.4 million VIS or something like that a month, which is a lot. And that's a lot off the market as well. And for every stadium, that's how you guys can do the maths. That's 500 Pega less in circulation. Another route is actually going to be our prestige system. So the prestige system, it has been floating around. I did make the documents kind of public. So the way that one works is essentially, let's say you're an owner and you have 2 Pega, and there are 3 out of 7 breed count. Right now, you really don't have the incentive to go any higher. However, we want to introduce a prestige system which rewards you for breeding higher. So what will happen is that you need 2 7 out of 7 Pega, and what that will allow you to do is fuse those 2 or merge those 2 and create a new Pega which is considered prestige 1. What that Pega can do is actually participate in races every single day that earn PGX, not just VIS. So they'll be able to earn VIS as well, but also PGX. You can obviously connect the floor price to a prestige Pega to however much it costs in VIS to get there. I think it's about 600,000 VIS needs to be burnt, plus 1 Pega does die in the process, so it burns a Pega and burns a bunch of VIS in the process, and then you get a PGX producing asset. Now there is layers to the prestige system, so you get prestige 2. How do you get prestige 2? You need 2 prestige 1s, 7 out of 7 breed count. That means you need to do the entire cycle again. If you did want to see the breakdown of how the prestige system does work, it is public. I guess we'll put it in the description of the YouTube video as well, and you can read through the entire system. However, a very good incentive for you guys to get those higher breed counts. What you'll find is in the marketplace, it actually flips. It'll probably flip, I should say. So right now the virgin Pega are, a lot of people want them because they're cheaper to breed. However, if the benefit lays in the 7 out of 7 breed count, of course the desire is going to be for the 7 out of 7 breed counts. You don't need to prestige. You could just do 7 out of 7 breed count and then sell those 2 of them as a pair for profit. Who knows the route that it's going to take. This does open the game a lot more, but to get to 7 out of 7, you guys can go and do the maths. I think it's like 600k VIS. This is not for the lighthearted. This is for people who really understand the power of earning PGX through the game, but also the ability to sell assets that are rare. And prestige, prestige 2, prestige 3, prestige 4 is going to be mega rare. The prestige also is attached to, you still got your HOS, which are more rare. It could be a founding prestige HOS, could be prestige crowned 2, could be prestige 4, crowned 3, founding Hoz, you know what I mean? Like, there is so many layers to it. And the rarity is going to be extremely intense and a super big collector's item as well. Another route that we did want to take, I recently made a video on it. This is the lease to breed system. The lease to breed system essentially makes it, it kind of ties in with the other ones as well. If you have a look at it, you know, the prestige system and the lease to breed system. What happens in the lease to breed system is that the owner, say myself, will rent 2 Pega to the scholar. I'll put both of those up into a contract. I'll set a certain amount of VIS as a goal. So let's say they are a 5/7 and a 5/7. So they've bred 5 times. They're going to do their 6th. So I'll put them up there. The breed count minimum is 50,000 VIS, for example. That scholar needs to earn 50,000 VIS. 100% of that VIS goes into that contract. Those 2 Pega will breed. The new baby will go to the scholar. They'll become an owner now, and then those 2 Pega are now a 6/7, and it goes back to the owner. As you could see, the owner doesn't need to race them, and it's being bred, plus it's creating new owners inside the game. These guys are increasing the value of their assets by making someone else do the work to get the breed counts up. Plus, they're not actually paying for it. So everyone wins in that scenario. The value of the assets actually go up with the breed count, not go down, because they're getting closer to that prestige system. So they all work hand in hand, but essentially, as you could see, the scholar isn't cashing out. The scholar is burning 100% of their VIS. The manager or the owner is still earning a percentage. You know, there's going to be a percentage split of those earnings. The scholar doesn't put 100% of each race into there. They'll put, like, I don't know, 40%, 50%, because it's getting burned anyway. The owner's probably going to be a little bit more lenient. So that'll go up to there and be burned. And the last way is actually creating a system to where you guys can actually buy energy and enter another race. So let's say you want to race more. What you will do is spend 100 VIS of your earned money. You can be a scholar or an owner, it doesn't matter. 100 of, say, locked VIS, and you get a piece of food. When you feed your Pega that piece of food, it then enters a different race, not a free race, a different race where the prize pool is a bit bigger. And then what will happen is essentially that the prize pool, you're spending VIS to essentially enter that prize pool, or the bigger race, I should say. So there's going to be a burning mechanism through that as well, because the amount of energy, or VIS I should say, spent to get into that race is going to be less than the reward. However, your reward for winning in the top, you know, it could be you pay 100 VIS, and for coming first you get 700 VIS, if you understand what I mean. However, there's going to be 12 pieces of food bought, which is 1200. Maybe the reward is only 1080 VIS total, so then we burn 10%. So that's the route that we want to take as well. So that's 4 basic burning mechanisms. As you can see, it covers basically all spectrums. It covers the big guilds, as you can see with the Pega burning. Also on the prestige side, with the stadiums for the Pega burning, I should say. And then on the prestige side, then you have the scholar side for the lease to breed. And then finally you have the entry, purchasing the food, so you can burn either side. Also unminted VIS to enter those races, which is a really interesting situation that we want to explore. So hopefully that cleared it up. That's just 4 of the plans that we do have. I do want to make it clear that we don't believe this is a guaranteed route to burn everything, or going to make it balanced in any which way. We don't know what's going to happen. That's just our personal opinion, and we think that's a decent attempt to at least give us more time to come up with some more ideas. It won't be built overnight either. You know, this might take 4 months to build all of these. However, they will be built out in some form, and they may change just a little bit. But thank you for that question. This one comes from Posty. He says, how will you and the team handle the massive growth of players on Pegaxy? So we're pretty lucky. We do have that cooldown method. Now, obviously, we're not going to be perfect. We're going to experience issues along the way. That's just how it is. However, we are able in some way to be to predict the growth. It is generally exponential. However, fortunately, those cooldowns do allow us to predict in which way the growth is going to go, so we can kind of model at what level we will have this amount of players or this amount of Pega in the ecosystem. So we can generally try to plan accordingly. It doesn't always go to plan. However, we try our best. Yeah. And then he also asks, what will Pegaxy be 6 months from now? To be honest, we don't know. Definitely don't know. We always have a vision. However, tech is an interesting scenario, and 90% of the time doesn't go to plan. So we're always learning, we're always screwing up as well, as you guys are well aware. However, in 6 months' time, I think us as a team, everyone inside Pegaxy, will be far more experienced, far more confident in our ability, and far more developed as well. And I think that's important. The 6 months after that is another story. I think that'll be a big one. And then, are you open for opportunities to make collaborations with other P2E games? Yeah, for sure. So I think we are open to it. It just needs to kind of make sense. The ones that really do make sense are kind of, I guess, the open world scenarios, you know, Sandbox or Decentraland. Those situations do kind of make sense, especially if they are on the Polygon network. However, who knows what's to come? There's so many games coming out, and yeah, if it does make sense, then of course we are more than willing to collaborate or feature each other in each other's games. I think that's really, really important. So this one here comes from Doji. Hopefully I said that right. How do you plan to address the potential HOZ overpopulation, even before it gets to the point where 99% of Pegas are HOZ? So that's an interesting one. I guess people didn't really realize that HOZ was always going to be the most populated over time. How quickly that happens, we don't know. It's very close now already. So the idea behind the rarities initially was actually just for the founding Pega. But if you have a 4 times quicker cooldown on a HOZ over a Zan, it's always going to flip at some point. It's going to be harder for HOZ to catch up to Campona, but if Campona is just not as popular as well, that's just the situation. HOZ is going to become the most popular. So we're not too worried about it. However, things in the future will change. You know, benefits and meta is going to change. Right now, HOZ is the meta because you can breed and produce as many Pega as possible. But if a Zan all of a sudden has a different type of benefit that is more attractive to most people, then I think it's going to be very interesting to see where the balance goes. So, yeah, I mean, for now, that's how it is. However, it can very quickly flip. Zan doesn't have the benefits, but maybe it will in the future. Maybe Clin will have the benefits, who knows. This is just how the game develops. We don't have everything set in stone now. Very, very fluid, and I think that's probably the best approach to have. This is a good question from Kuya. Hopefully I said that right again. What would be the ideal VIS value for it to be sustainable both for scholars and breeders? Would there be more VIS burning mechanisms? If so, are these accessible not just for breeders but also for scholars, and when? So I guess I answered that just a little bit earlier. We do have the framework and the ability to be able to burn on both sides. So our system does recognize the difference between a renter and an owner, which is very, very powerful for us. So the ideal VIS value. This is an interesting situation, guys. So my personal opinion is that it should move a lot. It should move up and down. That creates a lot of flipping opportunities, a lot of interesting scenarios in the market, and that's actually why I do like the fact that our pool is quite small and that it takes not too much to influence it, because that massive movement on the upside, that massive movement on the downside with not much force really gets people attached to it. So, you know, you could be waiting for that downwards movement and all of a sudden it goes astronomically high. And that creates a weird situation, because then you may go selling your Pega instead of taking a different route. It really messes with people's plans, but I think the interesting part about that is that it gamifies the whole situation. It's not predictable, and I think that's more fun. So I don't think there is any ideal VIS price. You know, it could drop as low as SLP right now, and let's see who really understands it. So, and then it could pump, you know what I mean? It could go astronomical again when it does hit that price, because people had been waiting for that price. Just an interesting situation, I believe, and a small pool does allow that. So over time, obviously, the pool is going to get larger as people recognize the percentages are quite nice gains in there, and the more speculation that does happen, the more they're going to be wanting to be part of it as well, because the percentage will increase. However, yes, I guess that kind of sums it up. There is no price for me which is good or bad. I think a lot of movement up and down, crazy, both ways, both extremes, really makes the game fun. For the ones who invest money into the game, not so much the racing side of things. I think that's probably another thing I'll touch on later, is that I think the game is bigger than just the racing. For 90% of you guys that actually watch this and put money in, you're probably not playing the game. The scholars are playing the game. The game that you're playing is, as I just said, the VIS price affecting the Pega price, affecting the breeding, all of that type of stuff is probably more interesting to you. This is another awesome question actually by Axie Foley. So when the Pega can be controlled, will the game remain accessible to everyone, or will it really be the best who are rewarded? My thesis behind everything is that the most skills should be the most highly rewarded. However, I think everyone should have an equal opportunity to earn. What that means is that there is no pay to win side, as you guys understand. I say it so many times, but there can't be a pay to win side if you're going to rely solely on skill based, and that's the route that we do want to take. That's extremely difficult. That's really, really, really difficult. So I still don't have the vision of what that entails. You know, it could be a strategy over actual player controlled. It could be preparation strategy. It could be a combination of both. It could just be the player controlled inside the game. I don't know. I just don't know yet. And the issue is we're building live, so we can't test it. You know, if we introduce something that does actually become a pay to win mechanism, we need to counteract that or remove that pretty quickly, because there's real money on the line, so we can't mess around. So unfortunately I can't really answer that right now, but in general I would say it will absolutely remain open to everyone. Whoever invests the most time, plays the most, studies the mechanics, and understands the game will likely be the most rewarded players. This one here comes from Sifu. Will there be eventual benefits for the breed types, founding, legendary, epic, rare, and pacer? The benefits are external to the game, so you've already experienced it right now. If you are a founding Pega, founding Pega owner, you've had access to the closed beta for a long time. Legendary as well, epic's just happening, rare the next week, pacer the week after. When it's pacer, that's everyone. So yes, there is always going to be benefits, and the founding Pega owners have had it for like probably a month, and the large majority of the player base, over 50%, still are playing on 2D. So they're the benefits. They're always going to be external to the game. Again, if you have enough money to pay for a founding, it doesn't mean that you should be winning over someone with a pacer. Inside the game, I personally believe that a founding should be able to compete against a pacer and have equal opportunity. This one's from Offins. When stadiums are released, is there a cap to the number of stadiums? If so, how will it address the growing population of Pega that needs to race in it? Also, how will the initial public sales of stadiums be like? There's a little bit of confusion here because it's obviously my fault, because I had ideas early on and then I expressed the ideas publicly. However, things always change as we think of better situations and better routes to take it. So with the stadiums, as I mentioned earlier, it's likely that stadiums are going to be unlimited. And the reason for that is that we don't want to, for one, it's digital real estate, or digital ownership. You don't need a cap. In reality, you just need to make it difficult to attain and make it rewarding as well, so it is desirable. However, it looks like there will be no cap. It'll just require you guys to make a tough decision. Are you going to burn, for example, 500 Pega? If you are, the reward is very, very good. You just need to be willing to burn that 500 Pega. Now, I guess I may have mentioned this earlier, but people will complain that, the biggest guilds are the ones that are going to get the stadiums, and that's an understandable thought. However, you guys also have to remember the biggest guilds are the ones producing the most VIS and have the most scholars and have the most Pega. You want them to reduce their population. It's in your best interest. If you want to be profitable as a small player, you don't want the guilds to have 1 million Pega. You want them to take a different route to attain their profitability and not compete against you directly. So, yes, if you have a lot of Pega, this is definitely going to be attractive to you. If you have an end goal of owning a stadium, this is definitely going to be attractive to you as well. So yes, that's probably the route we will take. Again, it may change. However, we're liking this route. This one's from Tito. He says, how do you spend your usual day? I wake up, reply to hate comments. That was a joke. I just wake up, I get on my phone, there's a million messages, check Discord, see how the community is, see how you guys are feeling, check the general socials, see the sentiment. If any issues had happened overnight, jump on the computer, and sit here for about 10 hours a day, probably longer, and eat dinner, maybe watch some anime with my wifey, and then back on the computer probably. Yeah, that's my whole day, so it's not very fun. What's my share profit percentage? Set the standard. This one's from King Rocky. Interesting one. Everybody knows my opinion. I believe that it should be 30% or less. Why? We're just going off what we think might be right. We had a look at Axie's data, and scholars are taking 70%, and 70% of that becomes sell pressure on the market. We saw what happened to SLP, so we thought let's just, Shill Bill actually came up with the idea. He thought, flip the percentages. Let's see what happens. So we set that precedent pretty early. I would say 90% of the guilds are sticking to that. I think the global average is like 25% or maybe less. So it's really, really good, and I think that's where it should stay. I don't think we should repeat history. I'm not saying that the percentage flip is the be-all end-all and the solution, but I do think with that in hand and all of the other burning mechanisms, you really can extend the life of the game. The basic maths behind it, or I guess the theory behind it, is if you're giving scholars 70% share and they are selling 95%, let's say, if you reduce that to 30% share to them and they sell 95% of it again, in theory you are reducing the amount of tokens being sold on the market, which would still reduce the selling pressure. When the selling pressure is reduced, the token price increases. That 30% in theory could be worth more than that 70%. And what matters to the scholars is the USD value, not the amount of tokens that they are acquiring. So it's a very interesting situation, and that's why we do want to do it. And if you look at the lifespan of the game, 70% is the standard in Axie, 30 to 25% in Pegaxy. If the stats of how many people sell remains, in theory the lifeline or the lifespan of the game should be at least double, just based off that alone. So we'll see what happens. That's just a theory. We're just going off some Shill Bill's, I guess, maths. It may not work, but it's worth a shot. This one's by NFT Gaming. So was there any future listings for PGX and VIS, 3 months in brackets, in major exchanges? So it's possible, definitely possible. I don't, if we are popular, usually some exchanges will list you, no questions asked. You don't need to be asked. They will just buy it off the market and list you. So some of them may not even be in our control, but for now we're not planning any. If we do go for one, it's probably going to be crypto.com, because that's who invested in us, so we want to be able to provide value back to them. So I would say, around 100k DAU, something like that. We'll probably hit 100k DAU in a month and a half, 2 months maybe. So we'll see what happens then. However, that's generally going to be the goal. So yeah, I would say look out for it around that point, but we'll announce it in the future, because we don't want to do a surprise thing where it pumps the price astronomical, all that type of stuff. We don't want to do it. So yeah, this one's from Kay. So when player controlled is available, will it be like Mario Kart? If so, how will the stadium look? Just a straight line? No. Well, our inspiration is Mario Kart, I should say. The reason behind that is Ken is absolutely obsessed. He spent way too much of his life playing Mario Kart. Hopefully he watches this, because it's an issue and he needs help for it. But anyway, that's the inspiration behind it, and I think it's true in reality. If you've played Mario Kart, you have memories of playing Mario Kart, how competitive it is, and really, like, against your friends, it is seriously fun. So yeah, that's definitely our inspiration. We're not going to just go and make Mario Kart with horses. It's very, very difficult to do. They've had years to perfect that game, and the mechanics behind it. So it's going to come out in stages. Stage 1 just might be the introduction of a button that does something. Stage 2 might be the introduction of strategy, and then stage 5, stage 6 may be fully player controlled. Again, as I mentioned at the start, we really need to be careful introducing these mechanics when they could create a pay-to-win scenario, which is what we want to avoid. This one's from Last Dragon, from YGG. Shout out to YGG. Why have multiple Pega breed types if you are just going to balance them only? Don't you think it's dangerous not to release what the stats do for those that are breeding now? could upset a lot of breeders in the future, not knowing what's good or bad. The reality is, with a game that has been out for 2 months, not even we know what's going to exist in 12 months. So we can't tell you what's going to happen exactly. And if we do tell you and then we change our mind, you're probably going to even be more mad. So it would be much more appropriate if no one knew, and then when we release it, you will know. I think that's definitely going to be an important point for people to take note of when you are breeding, when you are purchasing Pega. When you look at these stats, you don't even know what they mean. It could be the fact that a 0% is better than a 10%, because there's positive and negative impacts. So for example, your Pega is 5% in fire, 5% in water, yet you go up against a Pega that has 10% in fire and 5% in water. That extra 5% in fire may actually be detrimental to the track. Who knows? This is the way that the game will go, and I'm not going to tell you just go by the highest percentages, when in reality that could not be the direction that you want to be going. So again, it's best if nobody knows right now, so it's fair game when it does matter. This is a pretty awesome question. Can you share details of how and where you plan to expand your team at the current growth rate of Pegaxy? So I assume he's talking internal team. I'll base my answer off of that. So where we plan to expand is obviously customer service. As you guys know, that's enormous for us. We expand the customer service team as we expand the game as well. Another really big one for us is developers, for sure. So on the tech side in Vietnam, but also we have an external development team which is based all around the world. So we have like Portugal, the Philippines as well. So yes, there's obviously going to be a big focus on developers on the Unity side as well, game designers, artists, and the 3D team. We just want as many 3D team members as possible, more so to come up with the concepts and the marketing material, the stuff that you see on social media, and theorizing Crown Pega, theorizing Prestige Pega. There's so many variants, there's so many things that can be made. We just need as many hands as possible. And I would love to expand into producing some sort of animated series so that you guys can really become attached to your Pega. I don't know when that's going to happen. I would love to be able to explore it though. Yeah. And then the current, given the surge in popularity of Pegaxy, are there changes in your priorities? What are your top 3 priorities to release now? Interesting one. So for sure, priorities do change. We didn't want to be this big this quickly because you don't want to peak in your beta, in your alpha. So it's not unexpected. The reason we did the cooldowns is because we did expect it to really take off, but unfortunately it's just got to the point where it's like already obnoxious attention. So a lot of people are waiting to come in, and any opportunity for them to come in, they will. So what that means is that we really need to recruit fast. Yeah, basically that's the main thing. We need to recruit fast. That's priority number 1. We need more hands. We need to be able to produce more stuff, because priority 2 is release these new mechanics that I mentioned at the start. So if you want to release all of these mechanics, and as your game grows quicker than expected, or it just grows quick in general, that means when you're dealing with real money, as we know with this economy, you need to produce shit quickly. That means you need more hands, so we can't put recruitment second to releasing features. Recruitment comes first. We want the most talented staff possible, who are passionate about it. Secondly is obviously those new mechanics within the game, and then thirdly would be the mobile beta release. There is a lot of focus on that one as well, and again, more Unity team is going to get that out quicker. We're having a massive focus on that. However, yes, essentially it will be the mobile focus, because that allows easier access to Pegaxy. And then finally, when skins? Good question. Not too sure. This would be another burning mechanism, which would be attached to wallets, not Pega, which I think is interesting. Scholars will be able to purchase their own skins. I think that would be awesome. So we just need to create a system, like a gacha system, that will allow the skins to be fun and interesting. Merging skins, creating rarer skins, being able to purchase skins with VIS and then selling them on the marketplace for USDT. Really, really cool. So we'll explore that more. any suggestions that you guys have, we're more than open to it as well. But then again, you need design on top of that, which means we need more people. So priority number one, people. Great question here. So this one's from Asobs, sorry if I said it wrong. Is it 100% RNG, or do stats, breed, rarity play a factor? If not RNG, can you tell us what percentage of win rate variation is RNG versus other factors? So the only other factors besides RNG are the attributes of your Pega and the attributes of the track. So they do relate to each other, they do interact. So when you're racing, this will be only for the users who are racing in 3D, you'll be able to see it. When you're racing, you slow down and you speed up all the time. When that happens, that's you guys interacting with the factors of the track, and they generally do determine the results. The percentage wise, I can't reveal at the moment, that wouldn't be wise of me. However, I would say you can look at it as RNG, because for one, you guys can't control which track you get. That means you don't know which attributes, and you can't back out and go to another track that suits your attributes. Plus you can't change your Pega's attributes, so the moment you join, it's completely random, independent of how your statistics align with the track. Again, you can't back out, you can't control it. So some would call it RNG. Completely, I would say that the basis of it is RNG, with more influence based on the statistics of the track and your Pega. Statistics being, the attributes, fire, water, all that type of stuff. So yes, I just don't want to say right now which percentage it is weighted either way. This one's from Microcryptologist. How sustainable is the existing scheme of the Pegaxy game, I assume, when our total population reaches over 1 million active players per day? So, good question. If we don't introduce anything right now, we're on a path to Rectville. That's pretty obvious. So right now what we have is absolutely nothing different to the situation that Axie had. That's just the reality. If we don't introduce anything extra, of course we're going to get wrecked. That's just repeating history. Why would we do that again? The thing is, things take time to develop. So we can't just release a burning mechanism tomorrow. That's just the reality, because if it hasn't been built, it hasn't been tested, it puts you guys at risk. However, in the long term, when we do introduce these things, we personally believe that it will be more sustainable. We don't know how sustainable, but it will be more sustainable. But it is without a doubt right now absolutely not sustainable at 1 million players. The reality is, I probably have mentioned this before, but the Pega mint non-stop forever. The burning mechanism is only one time. It doesn't make sense. This system just unfortunately isn't sustainable long term after people have enough Pega. So yes, take that as you wish. However, that is the reality. This system right now is broken, absolutely, and that's why we're trying to build in public and get your opinions and your assistance on building sustainable burning mechanisms and other stuff that you guys are actually wanting to do, not shit that we assume that you guys want to do. We might as well just ask you, what will it take for you to burn a Pega or kill a Pega? You tell us, then we do it, then you guys are going to burn the Pega. It's pretty, it's common sense. Another one, this one's from Tiffany. Do you think that VIS will repeat the history of SLP? If not, how will you prevent it from happening? We don't know. I'm not in control of the markets, that's just the reality, but I think a small pool size is very interesting as well. You obviously need the fundamentals behind it. The game needs to work. It needs to have routes to go, so it needs to be burnt in reality. So again, I would say if we did nothing, we'll absolutely repeat history. No question about it. Not even a second thought. But again, we have plans. We hope they will work. If not, again, this is a really big experiment, and we just have to keep experimenting until we find what does actually work. This one's from Jupa. Hopefully I said your name right. Are you guys open to doing a buyback for VIS from the Treasury to establish a floor price if the worst scenario becomes a reality? I don't understand why we would ever do a VIS buyback. We need to make sure that our game works, and then there will be no need. And then, a buyback is temporary. The asset just keeps producing more VIS. So at what point do we stop buying back the VIS? We need to stop the VIS production. That's the reality. us buying it back and burning it, I mean, yeah, I don't understand what that would actually do. Tomorrow there's just going to be more VIS. The day after there's going to be more VIS. We will have to buy back forever, and then the game won't exist anymore because we'll be broke. This one's from Ad Astra Blockchain Gaming. I'm assuming, I can't see the full name. So how can we, as a scholar program, maximize our technical security? You guys can run your entire scholarship program out of a single wallet. If you want maximum security, you put all of your Pega on a Trezor. You do need to confirm every interaction. So what I would recommend is having a second wallet, which we do allow, that isn't earning any VIS, that isn't renting out or anything like that, that you can breed from temporarily. Once you're breeding them and they've hit a certain amount, like if you're doing 4 out of 7, you then put those parents, the 4 7s, back into your Trezor, which you rent from. Then you rent them out to your scholars or the marketplace, whatever, from that wallet. And that it's as simple as that. So yeah, there's not much to it. You can run a 10,000 Pega guild from a single wallet. That's just what our framework allows. The security, if you put 10,000 Pega into a Trezor, the person needs to be physically in your home, I believe, to be able to get it. So you're as secure as it gets, I guess. This is an awesome question, and it's actually one that we've been asked a few times. So this one's from John Rayner. Based on the records in Apollo, it seems that the winning was adjusted. It was significantly lower from our previous claim day. Did you adjust the win rate of Pegas to protect the VIS price? We didn't adjust anything. I think what you guys need to remember is that win rate is based on top 3 positions, but the prize reward difference between third and first is significant. If you get 7 firsts and 10 thirds, your win rate is still higher with the thirds, but your earnings is like a third. It's significantly lower. So I think you just need to make sure that you take that into account. It's natural. You may have a consistent win rate, but your actual position in the top 3 and how much you're earning is definitely going to change. You're going to have up months and you're going to have down months. That's just the reality. Even if you're bringing in more Pega, again, as I mentioned, if you wanted, if you got 1,000 first places in a month, you would need 3,000 third places in the next month to equal it, which most people are not breeding that quickly. So yeah, just consider that. This one's from Axie FC. I think he's an OG from the community. So thank you so much for the question. Will it be possible to do private races betting VIS? And thank you for giving us such an amazing game. I appreciate it, man. So private races, I think that will definitely come in the future for sure. I think it would be really cool if you guys just set up, a private match. You were like, there's going to be 5 people in this match. You send a link to your friend, or you send an invite and the notification comes up in your user dashboard. You accept it and then you enter the race, and you guys can, just compete directly. I think that would be pretty cool. However, the betting side, that's difficult. We don't want to become a casino, so we want to protect you guys. If we do betting or something like that, instantly there's eyes on us. The game's definitely going to be funner, but casinos are regulated for a reason. We're just an online casino at that point, and if you want your assets to go to 0 because the game gets shut down, that's definitely the route that you can go. However, we'll see what's possible. I don't know yet. We just do not want to risk it for you guys right now, so we'll figure out something for sure. This is an interesting question. I don't want to butcher your name. I apologize, but do you get any kind of return in the Matic gas fee? And is it possible to implement a renting system without a gas fee? Because I feel that it's impossible to rent nowadays. So definitely not. You don't get a return for the Matic gas fee. It's like 1 cent, literally, to do a transaction. At worst, it's like 50 cents, maybe. So definitely not a return on the gas fee. You're basically not paying gas. Is it possible to implement a renting system without the gas fee? It does exist already. You just get a scholarship from a guild. If someone from a guild sends you a Pega via the direct rental system, you don't need Matic gas. There it is. It's already built. However, I think this is important to address because this person said that it is impossible to rent nowadays. We will be creating like a reverse engineered renting system at some point. Right now, the owner lists it on the marketplace and then a person comes along and rents it. Obviously, it gets botted all the time. We can't prevent all of the bots. They're just going to keep coming, renting them, and then taking that rent percentage yield. That's just the reality. So we're going to reverse engineer it. The way we're going to do that is, instead of there being a marketplace, there will be essentially no interface. What will happen is that scholars will just be basically in a queue. And what will happen is that owners will have the button in the Pega profile. They'll click rent. They'll go public rent. They'll set the percentage. They'll accept it. It'll go to the person who is willing to accept X amount of percentage and above. And that's it. That's the way that it will happen. So it'll just get automatically assigned to the person's profile. There'll be no UX, UI. There'll be no interaction from the scholar side. The scholar will just need to have a verified account on the Pegaxy website. Whether that includes KYC, I'm not sure. We'll probably do KYC to make sure that the owners are protected. I know a lot of them want it. The owners, people who invest money into the game don't need to do KYC. It's the ones who are not investing money into the game that put the people who put money into the game at risk, that I think it would be best to do KYC. Potentially KYC is optional. Let's say the owner doesn't care. They will select with KYC or a verified account or no verified account. They don't care. It'll go to either list. But a verified account, is probably going to have a lot more options and a lot more Pega flowing through that list than someone else. So yes, likely we will take a route like that, and then it can't be botted. Simple as that. Alright, this one's from Chaboots. Hopefully I said it right. Hello there, Corey. While the amount of Pega breeding appears to be healthy right now, are there plans to increase the breeding cooldown in the future to avoid exponential rise in the Pega population? It's an interesting one, and definitely have considered it. It's very possible that we will increase the breeding times required, and then allow you guys to pay more PGX to reduce those breeding times. So for example, a Hoz might go from 1 day to 3 day, a Zar might go from 4 days to 10 days or something like that. They'll all expand out, say, an equal amount. And then what will happen is that you'll be able to, pay a standard 30 for 30 PGX, I should say, for the standard breed time, whether that was 3 days for a Hoz or whatever. And then if you wanted to reduce it to 2 days, you pay 60. 1 day, you'd pay more. So it gives you guys the option. If you do want to continue the rate of production, you will just pay more PGX, which is generally fine because we don't charge all that much. So it gives options. I think that's a better route. We won't force everyone to do it, however. But yes, we're considering it, and I think it's probably quite a safe route. It does complicate it a little bit for our prediction model, but yeah, in general, we'll see what happens. I think definitely don't rule it out. Yeah. This one's from Mark Simnet. Hopefully I said that right. Why doesn't the game show VIS per race as well as win rate? This is the important number. Win rate is misleading. Definitely win rate is an interesting one, which I would not be basing your guys' purchases off or your opinion of the Pega off. It can be skewed from previous bugs and imbalances. So definitely agree with you there. The win rate is not something that you should be looking at too much. However, if you want to figure out the VIS per race, you just go to Apollo, look at the Pega's lifetime earnings, and then the amount of races that it's done, and then divide it by that. There you've got amount of VIS per race. It's very easy to calculate. This one's from Marcel and kind of relates to what I was speaking to earlier. Is there any plans related to the liquidity pool in Kyber? Right now Kyber is dealing with the VIS token, so I am just concerned the swapping of VIS in USDT cannot only cannot get handled from Kyber if some investors start to pay out or cash out, I think. So that's a great question. As I mentioned earlier, it's an interesting scenario, but we're not going to put over amount of incentives into a pool because you guys are actually reaping the benefits of a small pool right now. A lot of people are always like, why is VIS and PGX doing better in a bear market? But the reality is we're not on major exchanges, so we don't have the normal or if any retail money going in just as a sound investment or something like that, or a risky investment, and then when the markets go down they freak out and withdraw the money. It's not there. Plus the liquidity pool is so small that it allows for big movements on the upside, big movements on the downside, and not requiring much. So it's an interesting situation, as I mentioned earlier, and I think it's one that a lot of people undervalue. I think it's definitely beneficial to the game. We don't have any market makers. This is literally entirely on you guys. You guys dictate that price. If you want the price to go up, you just don't sell. You go and burn it through one of the burning mechanisms in the future. If you want to cash out, you cash out. The size of the pool is dependent on really how much VIS is in circulation. There's not much VIS in circulation now anyway, so doing an incentive to drag out as much VIS as possible into the pool, it's still not going to be a very big pool. I think you guys really need to recognize that as well. However, yes, I would say don't stress. We're going to go up, we're going to go down. This isn't an up-only situation. It's definitely going to go down, so please, please, please be prepared for that. Is Pegaxy planning to revise the breeding token quantity soon? This one's from, I don't know how to say that name. No, not just yet. Again, the reason that these systems don't work usually is because there's no incentive to breed up to 7 out of 7 and beyond. So let's fix that first. Interesting one from ABC. Will there be more uses or perks for those who receive their Fabled Token, like early access to buy stadiums? No. Those Fabled Tokens are like $1,000 or more. I mean, that's a pretty good incentive anyway. You got it for free for referring someone to the game very early on. And you have the ability to crown a Pega. If you get a crown Pega from 5 Fabled Tokens, and I think you guys know what would happen there. Like, that's well enough incentive. Even the temptation for someone to roll that when Crown Pega exists, trust me, I think you've got enough incentive for having Fabled Tokens. They're there. That's what they were designed for. So don't stress. Let's just, yeah, we can't give incentives for everything. This one again is from Q something. When is the Pickaxe app being released? So I think it's within Q1 is the goal. Is the beta release. So this will be like how you're experiencing Axie at the moment. You know, they're in beta mode, test mode. So it will be released sometime in Q1. We're just going to do some closed beta testing, then we're going to gradually release it again, how we did with the browser version. Okay, I'll head over to some Facebook questions now. The video is going pretty long, but I think I want to get as many questions out to you guys as possible, because I know this will answer a lot of stuff for you guys. This is a nice question from Ethereal Guild. I'm not sure how to say that. Are there plans to create new revenue streams for the Pegaxy economy so that the growth won't be reliant on the player base, just like MIR4, advertisements on stadiums, Pegaxy website, Apollo mobile app? If yes, how do you plan to integrate the revenue from those advertisements to the Pegaxy economy? There's always routes. I think stadiums is going to be a really big one for that, because of how many races are happening every single day, and the fact that you guys will very easily be able to see them. So I think there will be definitely advertisement opportunities there. How we integrate it into the platform is difficult because the owners, or we don't own the stadium, I guess you should say. So we'll figure out how that works. A lot of benefit does need to come to the owners as well. And then how we will make that benefit the economy, again, very difficult situation because it's never been done before, in a game like this at least. So yes, we'll figure out when the time comes, but right now, that's months off. This is a really cool question. Corky, hopefully I said that right. Hi Corey, what are the lessons learned by Pegaxy from other P2E games, and how did Pegaxy strategize to address this issue? Other P2E games that we took influence from was obviously Axie, that's the main one, Zrun as well. They were really the main two that we looked at and liked. So we took a lot of influence from the systems within Axie, I should say, and then we just looked at the situation of how can we evolve them, how can we make them better, how can we remove the bottlenecks, and that's kind of the system that you see right now. So yes, we just essentially strategize by getting in the trenches and experiencing it firsthand. So running an Axie guild, it was obvious that there was some difficulties with the payouts, with the amount of work required, blah blah blah. It was super difficult. So yeah, I guess that's how we strategized and addressed it. We built the systems all on chain, and made it easier for all of you guys to build a guild. Another question about bots here from Kenwee. What are your plans in stopping the usage of bots altogether? So I'm assuming, renting, potentially breeding, racing. For sure, there is definitely bots being used, and we have banned a lot of accounts that then come back and complain why we banned them, which is understandable, I guess. They don't think that we know. So it's generally going to be a little bit obvious on chain if something isn't natural human interaction. But these bot builders are really, really smart. I should make that clear. These guys are not rookies if they're getting around the system. So we're always going to be attacked. We're always going to try and be exploited. And we just need to kind of reverse engineer that. No one's going to tell us if an exploit does exist. I think that's the main point. Most people will not tell us. You know, there's some good people out there. But the reality is we're probably going to have to find them ourselves and realize that later on there was people exploiting them. Then we need to fill that hole. That's just what it is. We're always going to be exploited because we're dealing with real money. Don't expect anything else. That's just how the world works. This is another good one actually by Nick McDonald. So this is, I just pre-read it, but this one is actually related to the lease to breed system, I believe. That's what it looks like. So he said, I'm an owner of 30 plus Pega, paying the scholars. I would like to be able to get some more info on the potential impacts going forward for the owners in that situation. Once a Pega breeds to 7, it could no longer be used for the profit share arrangement, I assume the lease to breed, and the impacts this could have on the secondary marketplace. I'm absolutely on board to incentivize scholars. I think it's great, just making sure all angles have been reviewed. So if that's what we're talking about, I mean, if we're not talking about that and we're talking about the normal leasing system, the renting system, 7 out of 7, there is no stop there. Like, the Pega isn't dead. You can still use it. You just can't breed anymore. However, if it's on the lease to breed system, this is where all of those mechanisms I mentioned in the start do come into play. So you'll have, you know, your lease to breed system, which is entailing your goals for a prestige Pega. So you just need to strategize. If you want to sit on 7-7, get these scholars to lease to breed up to 7-7, and then you sell the 7 out of 7s for profit, maybe that's the route you take. Totally understandable. However, I think, you know, there's not just one situation or one introduction of one mechanism that is a be-all end-all, like you just kind of showed. If we don't have the prestige system, it's going to get to 7 out of 7, then what? You need more Pega to put into that lease to breed system. So yeah, it's a really good point. But yes, they should kind of work hand in hand. This one's a good question by Benjamin. So, hi Corey, I'm interested to know if PGX used for breeding was locked in Treasury. If yes, what are the process of releasing of those? What is the process for releasing those? And then from the white paper, 100% of PGX tokens go to the studio or the Treasury if the Treasury is initiated. So right now the Treasury is not initiated. You guys would definitely know if it was. Right now those PGX tokens are getting taken to the studio, us as, I guess, profit. However, we really don't have a use for them at the moment. We also take revenue from the marketplace. So like when you guys buy and sell stuff, a lot of revenue does come from there as well. So we're generally dealing with USD revenue in the marketplace, and then we can utilize that without impacting you guys, and that's generally our direction. These are unlocked, I should mention as well, so the PGX tokens that we received are definitely unlocked and we can use them at any time. However, right now, again, as I said, we don't have the incentive to do so, and it's possible, I should say, that when the Treasury is enacted, we will just deposit it into the Treasury, because we're not trying to dump the token on you guys. That's just the situation. This one's from Mon. Even before I played this game, I thought of the strengths and weaknesses. I really like the game, but the downside of that is that it doesn't have any excitement, or it doesn't challenge your strategic skills as a gamer, regardless of the earnings we accumulate. I know it would be boring someday if we just watch the race and hope for luck. I want to ask, are there plans to modify the gameplay for excitement except on changing gears? For sure. I think it's really important for you guys to remember the game has been out for 2 months and it's in beta. This is like super early. 2 months is 60 days, so that's why I think it's a little bit crazy for the people that we're being compared to, the other games that we're being compared to when we've been out for 60 days. If that was a newborn, they're still considered like just born, so we're just born as well. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not say we're going to list on Binance and that our volume should be massive and that the hype should be massive. We barely exist, so it's really important to remember that. And yes, the game right now is very basic. You just watch the Pega race in 3D or in 2D, or in 2D, I should say. However, to some that is fun. Definitely, that is fun to some people. But I also think the game is bigger than what you see. I think I mentioned it earlier in this video. People love the hustle, people love to flip, people love to build a guild, people love the strategy of what's the best way to breed and profit from that breeding. That's what people love. People who invest in the game are actually playing that game. And then the people who are racing the Pega, you know, they're usually not as invested in the game as the other people. So, of course, we have game designers who are working non-stop to theorize the way to make this game much more fun. And obviously much more profitable in some ways, and much more difficult to make profit in other ways. However, yes, I think it's important that we always just remember this game is more than what you see in horse racing. This game is big. This game is really, really big, not in size, more so in how complex it can be, and how many different areas there is to play. Great question here from Daniel. Do you have plans on creating your own network to avoid gas fees like Sky Mavis, Ronan? So there's like so many options right now. Polygon obviously is doing totally fine. Some people complain, I'm not sure why. You know, 99% up rate, it goes down 1%. It's like, screw Polygon. I think that's not very appropriate. The gas fees are basically nothing as well. You wouldn't want us on Ethereum. Will we make our own chain? I'm not too sure. It's kind of what happens in the future. Would we ever go on Ronin? I'm not sure. Again, you know, that's something that we always had in the back of our mind to hopefully explore one day if they are open to it. However, you know, discussions haven't even taken place yet. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe we decide to make our own chain. Maybe we decide to stay on Polygon. Maybe the Ronin team want us to be part of their ecosystem as well. I think the benefit is that we can choose any, and I think that's pretty cool. Awesome question here from Al. So, will there be a swap Pega marketplace system or a change gender VIS burn system in the future to avoid scams? Shout out to Rebirth Metaguild. So, it's likely that we will integrate a permissionless swapping system so that, you know, you guys in Discord can just go and speak to each other, and if you want to make a swap or a trade, you would just put either party's X, Y, or Z in the system. It'll recognize each side. Both sides need to accept, and then it gets swapped. So you don't need a middleman anymore because they get scammed so easily. Now, will there be a changed gender system? No. The reason why we don't introduce stuff like this is because us as a company, we make revenue from the marketplace. I'm just being totally honest with you guys. We can't make it so that you guys can make any Pega you want. You know, change color, change the gender, all this stuff. Like, it's not wise. How would we make any money to continue to develop this game? So we need you guys to use that marketplace so that we have revenue to build this game out. So yes, we're not going to be able to provide absolutely everything and make your life super duper easy. You need a hustle for it, and that's part of the game. This one's from Jake. Are you prepared when bear market comes to Pegaxy? What's the plan? Probably nothing will change. We just keep building. Again, you guys really need to be careful getting attached to the token price, because it's going to mess your head up. Unfortunately, if you get emotional, if you get attached to the token price, you're probably a little bit over leveraged or hoping for lottery. Just strategize properly and expect either way, movement either way. Again, we're just going to keep building. You know, we're looking at a 5 to 10 year game here, and the crypto markets, as you can see in the last week alone, have completely flipped. Imagine what's going to happen in 5 years. If we get to attached to the token price right now, I don't think I will be sane in 5 years time. So it's kind of like, you know, cover our eyes, continue to work, don't listen to the noise in the background. Just focus on building, focus on what we think is right, and if we create value within this ecosystem and a system that does work, as you can see now, we will function independent to the market movements, hopefully. I think I'll end it here, guys. Hopefully I answered all of your questions, or as many questions as possible. There were some amazing ones in here, so I really do appreciate it. Any more questions, of course, you can jump into our Discord, you can at me on Twitter, whatever works. We're more than happy to answer your questions. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I know it was a long one, and if you made it to the end, I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.